Guys, my name is Jonathan Harden, and today I'll be preparing journal entries for you guys today of a manufacturer's job costing system. So one example of how we would write down accounts increase through debits is to sort of lay it out like this in a T system, and you'll have one number over here. If it's debit, you would have it plus and credit minus. And if this was accounts increase through credits, you would have the plus and minus switched. So we're just going to have that as a basic rule as we practice writing these entries. So to start, we're going to work on writing the purchase of raw materials. We will start by writing raw materials in inventory, and under that we would have accounts payable. And this is to just record the purchase of raw materials. So we'd have our number right here, and on the other side lower for the accounts payable, the same number. The next step we're going to practice is the use of direct materials. We would start by writing down work in process inventory, and then we'd have the amount of each different item that company was working on and getting the materials for. So I have an example of 50,000 and 70,000, and then you would add those when you write those into the entry as 120,000 and slightly under for 120,000. And this is to record the use of direct materials of the job. The next entry we're going to practice is the use of indirect materials. We would start by writing manufacturing overhead, and under that would be raw materials inventory. And this is to record the use of indirect materials in the factory. So you start by writing 2,000 as we did before for the others, and below that to the other side 2,000. The next entry is the use of direct labor. We would start by saying work in process inventory, and under would be wages payable. And so you would take the direct labor of 12,000 and 30,000 for each of the different items that your company was working on. And this is to record the use of direct labor on jobs. Another entry we have is the use of indirect labor. We would start by writing down manufacturing overhead, and under would be the wages payable for that. And we would take this and we would have our number as we did for all the others. One number on the credit side and one number on the debit side. And this is to record the use of indirect labor in the factory. So now we're getting a little bit advanced, but we have the incurring other manufacturing overhead costs. We'll start by saying manufacturing overhead, and then we'd have the accounts payable for things like the electric bill, accumulated depreciation, the plant and equipment, the prepaid plant insurance for expiration of prepaid insurance, and plant property taxes payable for taxes that are to be paid. And so we would start by writing the manufacturing overhead. We would have the total cost of all the things below that we just took into account. And then on the other side, we would have the different numbers that would add up to the total. And as I said, if I'm going too fast for anybody, just feel free to pause the video, and hopefully you guys can see and have the visual aids I have for you guys clear. We also have the allocating manufacturing overhead to jobs. We would start by writing work in process inventory, and under that would be manufacturing overhead. And as we said before, it just depends on how many items your company is journaling at the moment. So I have 6,000 and 12,000, and we would write that as 18,000 because we add those two together. And this is to allocate manufacturing overhead to specific jobs. I have finished goods inventory, and it's the completion of jobs basically. And I would start by saying finished goods inventory, and under that I would have work in process inventory. And for the two items, I have 68,000 and 112,000. And this is to move the completed jobs out of the factory and into the furnished goods sort of stage of our company. And this, you just add those two together, and that's what I have over here. So now we're getting into kind of the final process of journaling, and we have the sale of units, and this is sort of the part one. And you have the accounts receivable, and under that would be sales revenue. And you would add that up. So to record the sale of 40 cross trainers and 60 treadmills. Sorry that it's small writing, but you can see there that I would take the price of the cross trainers and the treadmills and multiply them by how many of the units that we sold. And so I would get my answers and then add them together to write it as a journal entry. And then we have the sale of units part two. We have the cost of goods sold and then finished goods inventory under that. And as I did before, there's a part two because you reduce the finished goods inventory and record cost of goods sold. So we have an adjusted price, so to say, and you do as you did before and multiply the units by the price and then add it up together. Here we have the operating expenses. You have your sales and commissions expense, your rent expense, and your marketing expenses. Under that, you have to write for the other side the sales and commissions payable, rent payable, and accounts payable. And this is to record all the non-manufacturing costs incurred during the month. And to finish up, we have the closing manufacturing overhead, which is the cost of goods sold and the manufacturing overhead. And you do this to close the manufacturing overhead account. And this is just examples of different numbers. And the final thing is the income statement. And so I have an example of the income statement that we would have just completed. And you have the Life Fitness, the income statement, and you have your sales revenue, $210,000. And you subtract the cost of goods sold from that, which we had it at $166,400. Then you take the gross profit of that and subtract the operating expenses from that, and you would have about $6,600 as an operating income. And this is just a T account of manufacturing overhead to get all your different, see where I got some of the different numbers from. Hopefully that this journal entry helped you guys out, and let me know how it goes. Thank you.